We have this landscape that is a disaster. We've got problems across the entire state.
We had over 80,000 businesses that were out of business.
The events of the last year have had a dramatic effect on the roadways, about a 50% increase in traffic.
The idea of this planning, the idea of the kind of let's channel that growth and put it in areas that we all agree, makes sense.
Our government should, without a doubt, protect us with better levees. That should be the main focus.
The storms were tragic events, but they have brought great opportunity.
In the past year, we've heard many voices. Voices of fear and hope, voices of desperation and comfort, and voices of concern about the future of Louisiana.
I hope that you'll lend your voice to that chorus. It may be one of the most important things you're ever asked to do for our state. The Louisiana Recovery Authority is the planning and coordinating agency created to assist with the rebuilding of Louisiana. At this critical moment in time, it is important that all citizens be involved in planning our future. Louisiana Speaks is that effort. It's the plan that will help guide the state's recovery and rebuilding, and it was paid for by private foundations that think Louisiana needs more than just recovery. We need a vision and a plan to guide us into the future.
And it's not just a plan developed by a few. It's being developed with significant input from people around the state just like you.
All of this input from workshops and surveys has provided the team at Louisiana Speaks with information about the concerns of Louisiana citizens. At the end of the program, you'll have 3 ways that you can speak up. You can call this toll-free number at 1-888-PLAN-2050 or 1-888-752-6205. You can log on to www.louisianaspeaks.org, or if you have one of the polling forms that were inserted in your January 24th newspaper, simply complete and mail it in. Our state and its business and education leaders are working to find the right combination of economic development and education initiatives to lead Louisiana out of the post-Katrina Rita economy. If we're going to continue to compete in the 21st century, we have to be strategic and focus on what works. But what is the right combination of ideas? We ask you to select 3 priorities from a list of 7 strategies designed to create more and better jobs.
A. Pursue new opportunities in traditional industry sectors. B. Foster knowledge-based businesses. C. Expand trade and shipping. D. Attract and retain companies. E. Nurture entrepreneurs and small companies. F. Expand job skills and vocational training. G. Strengthen colleges and universities. Our second question involves making us safer from storms. The state's plan, currently in its preliminary draft phase, calls for multiple lines of defense against storm surges. It would increase levee protection around New Orleans and other large cities, and it would add new storm protection for smaller communities across the Louisiana coast. It calls for targeted river diversion projects that prevent wetland loss. It also plans to quickly create new marshes by piping in sediments. Finally, it calls for a large-scale diversion of the Mississippi River, somewhere in Lower Plaquemines Parish. And over time, and we're talking potentially generations, we could see the regrowth of our wetlands. The state's plan would be quite costly. Estimates have yet to be calculated, but restoration and protection would probably cost tens of billions of dollars. We need your input on what values our coastal protection and restoration plan should preserve. Choose 3 of the following 6. A. Community preservation. B. Commercial fishing. C. Navigation and ports. D. Recreational hunting and fishing. E. Oil and gas infrastructure. F. Wildlife habitat and flyways. Remember, we want you to choose 3 of these 6 options. Question number 3 asks you to indicate how important you think funding and implementation of the new proposed state plan for coastal protection and restoration is to recovery. Choices range from very important to not at all important. Please choose one.
Finally, we look at how Louisiana should grow. This is where the path we choose will take us to very different destinations. What will Louisiana look like in the year 2050?
Traffic analysts say that if the state continues its current growth patterns, by 2050, major roads in South Louisiana's 5 largest cities will be beyond capacity, gridlock. Traffic congestion is not the only effect of the way we're currently growing. By 2050, the state could see 460 square miles of open land converted to new development. And providing all those new utilities and roads to new subdivisions increases cost for taxpayers. Finally, if we keep going like we are now, much of that new development would be in floodplains. Current trends would place 445,000 more people in floodplains by 2050.
Many people prefer living in the suburbs, but by focusing development in existing cities and towns, Louisiana households could save up to 30% in annual expenses. Living in town saves people on fuel cost. It also saves on taxes and bills because we need fewer new roads and utilities. Building more in town also means fewer people will be building in unprotected floodplains outside of town.
But the traditional model of the French Quarter or other older Louisiana neighborhoods does present challenges. This type of development requires major changes in building regulations to allow mixing houses and shops together. More high-density, multifamily housing means fewer options for people who want single-family homes. The cost of building in town is higher, and that can make development there expensive. Also, the cost of building public transportation systems is extremely high. And finally, despite its historical roots, in-town living is new to many in Louisiana, and there's no way to know if it would catch on here like it has in other places in the United States.
Now is the time to ask, how should we grow?
A. Keep building and developing as we are. B. Modify development patterns, or C. Focus development on existing cities and towns. Please choose one. Question number 5 is our last issue, but it is an especially difficult one for Louisiana. In Louisiana, we value the ability of a property owner to use their land as they choose. Our Constitution gives a great deal of freedom to property owners. There are few limits to where people can build. Property rights and individual freedoms are important values to us. But when people build in areas with high risk of storm and flood damage, they pass that risk on to everyone. We are all in the same insurance pools, so all our rates rise to cover added risks. And we all pay taxes, which pay for disaster recovery and other costs. What do you think is the right mix of property rights and community risk? We ask you to mark one of these choices. A. Emphasize property rights. B. Balance property rights and community risk. Or C. Emphasize reducing community risk.
You have until February 10th to be a part of this historic moment in time. When you were asked, what did you do following the largest natural disaster in this country's history, what will be your answer? The choices we make today will shape Louisiana for generations. We hope you'll choose to be a part of Louisiana Speaks. History tells us that when people lead, the leaders will follow. So help us chart a new course, a new direction for our state. Use your voice. Speak up, Louisiana.
To give more feedback on any aspect of Louisiana Speaks regional vision, log on to www.louisianaspeaks.org.
Funding for this program made possible in part by a grant from the Fannie Mae Foundation, helping to rebuild Louisiana.